Hey guys, welcome back. I think I got zombies on the mind today. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Anyway, welcome to a new October horror film spotlight video. This time around, I've got another classic. Came out during the 80s. Not American though. It's actually European. It's actually Italian. And that automatically kind of tell you, give you an idea what it is that I'm going to talk about. And it is Zombie, or Zombie 2 actually. Okay guys, this is Zombie 2. It's an Italian horror film. It came out in 1979. It was directed by legendary filmmaker Lucio Fulci. It stars Tisa Farrow, who is the sister of Mia Farrow. She plays the character Ann Bowles. It also stars Ian McCulloch, who plays the reporter Peter West. It also stars Richard Johnson, who plays Dr. Maynard, and Al Cleaver, who plays Brian Hull, Oretta Gay, who plays his wife, I forgot her name, and Olga Kolartos, who plays Dr. Maynard's wife in the film too. Wow, I can't believe I actually knew all those names. Damn, I thought I was going to have to go through my reference sheet for that. But anyway, guys, just a quick synopsis of Zombie 2. Basically, this movie is about, or begins with, a boat in the Hudson River harbor area, downtown Manhattan on Hudson, I believe. Yeah, Hudson. And a patrol boat comes about trying to check it out because this boat is just drifting through there, and it could be putting other boats in danger. And that's when they discover the first zombie. So one of the cops gets killed. The zombie gets thought to be killed because it falls over. It's shot and falls over into the river. And then we jump to the Tisa Farrow's character, who is trying to look for her father. And they discover the boat because that's how they got in contact with her, because it belongs to her father, and she wants to know basically where he is. They don't tell her, so basically she meets up with the character of Peter West, played by Ian McCulloch, and they both end up finding clues as to where the whereabouts of her father could be, and they end up going there to the island somewhere off the Caribbean coast, to the island of Matul, where they meet up with the character of Dr. Maynard, played by Richard Johnson. And he basically tells them that he's been there since he knew her father, he knew what happened to her father. He died because of a mysterious illness that's been plaguing the natives on the island, and basically causing them to rise from the grave after they have died, and pretty much they're zombies, right? And it basically turns into the remaining characters trying to survive the island from the zombies and trying to escape. So that's basically a basic, premise synopsis of the film. I'm not giving away, I believe, too much of it because there's a lot of great stuff that happens in this movie. So it's definitely definitely check it out if you haven't. So that's pretty much the entire premise in a nutshell. And I have to say that this movie is something that when I first saw it, almost made me puke. But now over the years, watching it so far, watching over the years, I've come to enjoy it because of some of the things that happen in this movie. Because of those same things that almost try to make me puke the first time around. But overall, I think it has a really nice story in it. That it's actually pretty scary, and it's kind of really ominous. Especially the climax leading towards the end and those final shots at the end of the movie. It really kind of leaves you feeling like, oh my goodness, wow, this thing is wow. It's really scary to think that this is what it would look like if it was actually happening. And there's just so much in here. And I think one of the things that a lot of people know this film about is for two things in particular, because they're notorious with this movie. And one of them, of course, is the zombie versus shark scene that happens up here. It's notable because it's so hilarious. It's so hokey anyway, the way it's done. But it is a real shark, and it is a guy dressed up as a zombie. I believe he's probably like a shark wrangler or anything like that. That's doing the entire scene with the shark. But the other one, which is the most notorious, scene in this movie, which is mostly recognized for, is the splinter in the eye scene. Where Dr. Maynard's wife is alone in the house, and the zombies come after her, and she kind of barricades herself in her room. And during the process of trying to, reinforce the door, the friggin' zombie, literally, because with the power of 1,000 zombies, punches through a wooden door to grab her by the hair and pulls her head right through the door. And in the process, that whole thing happens in there, which is, again, even though I know that it was makeup, it was a prosthetic dummy or whatnot, but geez, the way it was shot, it was like, oh my god, I they don't even know if that's really real or if it's prosthetic or real. So there's moments like that again, especially most notably with Italian horror films that I've seen over the years, which hasn't been too many, but the ones that I have seen is that they keep the violence in their horror movies at an ultra realistic level. You know, that sometimes it might be a little bit too over the top compared to some of the normal horror films of the genre at that period of time or even today. Because of so much blood that just seems to ooze out of wounds and things like that, and just how grotesque they can make some of these wounds look like in the process of making it happen, or stuff like that. So those are the two things that this movie is primarily notoriously most noted for, is those things anyway. But there's other things in here. As a matter of fact, this one actually is the 25th anniversary edition of Zombie 2. And I'm glad I picked this one up actually, because I had a previous version, which was more of an American release that it just had the title Zombie, and not even 2, and it was written with the appropriate way with an E at the end of it, because this is kind of is the Italian writing of the word zombie and 2 at the end of it. And this one actually is a lot better, the 25th anniversary edition. The image quality is a lot better. I believe they kind of actually blew up the image just a little bit, just so that they can touch it up, and remaster it so that it looks actually cleaner than the original DVD version that I had, which I don't have anymore. I just only have this one, which is cool anyway. But the inside cover of the disc is actually the cover that was used in the previous edition of the DVD release. So this was the original cover to that. So, and that's that with this one. Well, there it is too anyway, right? Pretty. So yeah, I mean, there's so much that happens in this movie. Again, all these characters really played their roles very well. Again, this was the 25th anniversary edition. The other one was an American release that came out, I believe, probably during like the mid 80s or early 90s is when that one came out. What else? It's one of the most interesting things about this film is that, as far as I can tell, for a horror film during the late 70s, early 80s, this was actually a very international film. And I'm surprised that Fulci actually wanted to give it such an international feel, because they actually shoot in different locations. Like the most obvious, of course, they shoot in New York, they shoot in the Dominican Republic, as well as certain parts of Italy. And I've also kind of recently been made aware that they also shot in some parts in Mexico, which I wasn't really sure about. I didn't even know they filmed that, because the most notable parts, of course, is the Dominican Republic, because you can kind of tell that it looks like the islands. But it was really interesting that this is one of those horror films that actually has a very international look to it, which is cool. I'm glad, because I mean it kind of shows that the spread of the disease could go to any of these places, especially when you get to the end, when you see what happens at the end, you kind of feel like, oh man, like everybody's screwed now. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So guys, again, Zombie 2 is definitely something that if you're a horror fan, and especially if you're a zombie horror fan, you should definitely have. Is this particular film, because it has a lot of classic scenes. The acting is fairly decent. The imagery, the soundtrack behind it is really good. So I definitely say, guys, I recommend this one. You should definitely have in your collection. And just as an added little thing in here, I can't believe I did this. Just give me a second. Yeah, guys, sorry about that. So again, just as an added bonus, an honorable mention, that I'm gonna say, since I'm talking about Zombie 2 anyway, it's an Italian film. I want to also bring up, the follow up to that movie called Zombie 3. And the only reason why I'm gonna mention this particular film in this same video is not the fact that, of course, it's a continuation. It's also an Italian film. It was initially started. The director was Lucio Fulci. And then eventually it turned over to, I believe, Bruno Mattei. Ended up taking, the whole, directorial obligation of finishing this film. But what makes this movie so, I don't know, notorious maybe, is it's just by how bad it is. I mean, everything that made Zombie 2 so good, I think they tried to do in some way here with some added extra stuff, but it was just horrible. It was so bad. Camera angles were just completely horrible. It really looked like the zombies wanted to beat the crap out of, the survivors that they were trying to hunt after, because you see zombies wielding machetes, throwing uppercuts, doing tackles and stuff like that, just appearing out of nowhere, like out of thin air, or just holding up in odd places, ready to jump out or jump from tall ceilings. Like, wow, really, a zombie would do that? So, I mean, this is just something that, I say, if you have the time, if you can find it, I would say definitely check it out. It's something that you can definitely, have at over at a screening, a Friday night or something like that with your friends, and just have a hoot, just making fun of this thing apart. Just treat it like an MST3 type of thing. So yeah, definitely, guys. Zombie 3. So guys, I hope you enjoyed my little video there on Zombie 2 with an honorable mention of Zombie 3. It's definitely one of the classics to have in your zombie collection, guys. Alright, so hope you enjoyed it. Leave me comments, like the video, guys, and I'll catch you next time, alright?